good. We are live. What
We're
is
live?
up?
Are we live?
We are
How do we know?
live.
Are you sure?
And technically 8:30. We'll just say it was supposed to start at 8:30. No one knows any better.
Just those of us who planned
Just the people that have been hanging out
it.
for the last half an
We
hour.
are live. It's official. We're live. And Ed Saul's got his personal notification before we went on. You're
That's
welcome.
right.
So, welcome to Black and Tan. 0.0075% faster.
What is up, everybody? It's been a little bit. We've got a lot going on, and we actually had to skip our first podcast because we had so much going on. But we have a guest today. Our guest is Clay Pride. Clay is with us because Clay got into cycling recently, and it's been kind of tearing it up locally. And what I mean by that is, everybody has different levels that they have to go through to get to a higher level that they want to be. And you jumped in it, what, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, just right around 2 years. About 2 years.
About 2 years. And Clay's been doing this for about 2 years now. And I met him when he first kind of started. I remember you brought the bike into the shop. And
Did I ride with him first? Or I think I rode with him first, actually.
you might have ridden with him first before I did. I think I worked on his bike because his bike is one of those weird bikes that looks like a carbon bike, but it's an aluminum bike.
Yep.
And I was like, I kept thinking, that's the carbon bike. Then you told me a couple times, no, it's aluminum.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. But started riding with Clay. And the first time I rode with him, I was like, damn, this dude's strong. Like, for someone that's literally just started riding, you were strong. And I think you started off. I don't even know did you ever start off in the B rides, or did you just kind of started off in the A rides?
Well, I got dropped in the A ride. Like, I literally got my first bike. That was what you saw was my Monda.
Okay.
But the first bike I got was a 8-speed Damani.
Oh yeah.
And first group ride, I just went out to Velo, and I was new, didn't really know nothing. Hopped in the A ride, and then it was like, went the first maybe like 5-6 miles. Then one of my buddies that was in there, Craig, was like, "Hey man, we get ready to turn it up." That was the warm up, and I was already dying. So I was like, "That was the warm up." I'm like, "Oh goodness." So then probably like 2 more miles I lasted. Then I got blown off the back. I didn't have a bike computer, so I was lost. I really wasn't familiar with Pasadena. So then I was like lost, just trying to figure out how to get back to the parking lot. And finally made it back. It was dark. Just put my bike up and just was driving home. And my wife was like, "How did the ride go?" I said, "Well, got dropped. Didn't last the whole ride." I said, "But I'm hooked now." I was like, "It's over with now." I said, "I already got the bug. I know what I need to do." I said, "It's only a matter of time before I'm gonna be up there in the A group." And
Yeah.
That was it.
So, we went out and we did we did our thing, and with I think that's how it all works. We all go out and we think we want to be somewhere, and in our heads you're competitive,
Right?
And in our heads we want to be somewhere, and then when we get the taste of reality and we're like, okay, well, the thing that I did wasn't exactly what I thought I was going to do,
Right.
And because you're so competitive, now you're hooked.
Yeah.
Because there was a handful of people in that ride, I'm sure that you were like, yeah, that guy shouldn't be.
Absolutely.
Right.
Not only is he hooked, he's got a little target on his back now because he's a race winner. And that's
that's what happens.
That's what happens.
So 2 years of training, 2 years of pushing the pace, 2 years of training. Now, when I say training, are you actually on a training program, or are you just riding?
So, and I have to give credit to Paul for this, because when we rode, he asked me the question, was like, "Well, what's your IF?" And I was like, IF. He was like, your intensity factor. And I was like, well, I'm not sure. He's like, are you on Training Peaks? And at the time I wasn't, but Ed had said something to me about Training Peaks. And then when Paul said it, and I was like, okay, let me get on. So he's like, look, if you're gonna be serious, you gotta get on Training Peaks. So I went home immediately, got on, went ahead, paid for Training Peaks, downloaded it. Then that's when I started kind of getting into
Now,
the whole data part of it.
Our Paul.
Yes, your Paul. Yeah, Paul.
He looked at you and said, if you're going to get serious, you need to get on Training Peaks.
Yes.
He's never said that to me.
That's not true. That is totally not true. I knew exactly where you're going when he said it. I'm like, I'm just waiting for him to do it. I'm waiting for him to do it. Oh my goodness. I would structure your training in a heartbeat. You would be 20 pounds lighter and fast as clay. I promise you, Donald Rucker, you would be, but you do not listen to me, and I'm going to leave it there.
Well, that's that.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother Black and Tan podcast.
But yeah, that's kind of how my structure started. Like that was like, okay, get on Training Peaks, start learning about the data, and so I got into that. Then I never really did any. It was always like, okay, just make sure that you work in like 2 interval days, 2 hard effort days, and then the rest you can be, just kind of casual. So that was always just like my basic plan for myself was just at least 2 hard interval days, and then the rest was kind of have at it. And that's really been it for honestly since the start. I've gotten better with my numbers and understanding how my body feels.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gotten better with that, and of course on bike nutrition and all that stuff. But that's about it. It's really the basic stuff. Nothing like really strictly structured.
Yeah. So I mean, so your motor's built strong, and you continue. Obviously, you can always improve with that.
Yeah.
Even the strongest person can always improve. But so now you're starting to you got in with Artemis Racing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're racing for a team. You got some old crafty guys that are on that team that really know how to move up in a field and move around in a field.
Yep.
One of the first people that really hammered in my head that you don't have to be the fastest person or the strongest person to win a race, right? Because he's super crafty in knowing how to get around and get through the field.
Right.
So now you're in with Artemis, and they're teaching you kind of the ins and outs of racing, maybe like where to move up, how to move up, or at least having some teammates to help you do so.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of knowledge has been passed down and tips and things here and there, and I pick up on all that stuff, and I can't even go any further than first. I meant to just thank you guys, you and Paul Lavelli, for just having me on, and just in general.
Yeah,
And
that's nothing, man. You're a local. Hopefully you stick with it, and we're still around to call you a local legend.
hey,
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But even from what you guys have given me tips on stuff, Paul's giving me tips, Dave, anybody that's giving me a tip that's been doing it way longer than me, of course I take a note of it, and I don't just listen to it. Like I study what was said. A lot of it is just listening to what they're saying and then implementing as much of it as I can during the group rides, and then the hard efforts just to simulate it.
Right.
Because I feel like if you can simulate something as much as possible, when it's time for it to really be right in front of you, you already know what to do because you've done it so many times before.
Right. So what do you attribute your like you being able to train and concentrate and like you do? Is it from other sports that you've been involved in?
Yeah, I'm that I'm happy to be on Black and Tan because I'm black and I'm tan. So coming up playing ice hockey had a big major part in just everything: teamwork, the conditioning, the toughness that it takes to play ice hockey, especially at a higher level. So all that was already over the years, it already been ingrained in me, and it transferred over to cycling pretty good. And then the rest of it was just, I don't know. I've always had this desire. I just got this will about me. Like I always feel like if you put me in the right position to just even have a shot at winning, I'm very dangerous. Like if I'm in a position, I'm gonna go for it.
I think I know that character. That character, it derives from. I can tell it's from your wrestling background too.
That's it. Yep.
Right. I've met a lot of gritty people that'll dig deep in wrestling in that type of like grappling sports. And I'm sure some of that has come from there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
There's nothing like having to really dig deep in a grappling match, and it's you're running out of time, or dig deep and you're ready to either get pinned
Mm-hmm.
or submitted in some type of wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And you have to muscle through that.
Yeah.
And so, to be able to commit and grind, and I don't know if you did, but I cut weight a little bit until I realized that I didn't have the mental fortitude to cut weight like that. So I stopped cutting weight and I just wrestled up. So I would always wrestle against people that were a lot bigger than me, because those people would cut weight.
Right.
So I would wrestle at my walk-in weight, and they would wrestle at their cut weight, and they would walk the streets at 25, 30 pounds heavier than me. And I would just wrestle them at whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because even back then I had a problem. Right. But
Back to Clay. Back to Clay.
But that's where I think you probably got a lot of your grittiness and your grind. And you know that bike racing is that gritty, grindy like thing. I mean, you're on a team, but it's really you. You know what I mean? Like it's a very cycling, especially road cycling. Mountain biking's not so much of a like mountain biking. You're not going to have a teammate sacrifice himself
Right.
for you. Road racing, you're going to have, like, once you get to a higher level, you're going to have people that they may call like domestics, and you don't see a lot of them in crits, but they're there. You don't hear them talked about a lot in crits, but they're there. You hear them talked about a lot in like big races like the Tour and the Vuelta and things like that. But you don't hear them talked about that much in like crit racing, but they're there. There's people that are your lead out guys.
Yep.
Right? And they're dedicated to lead you out. And they know that odds are they're not going to win the race. If they keep the plans, they're not going to win the race. They're setting you up to win the race. So it's a very selfless sport to do it the right way. And almost like, for me, I don't understand why people put themselves in that position as an amateur racer. I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. I may be going against all the grain, but I'm like, I just don't understand why you'll get on a team, you get on a race team, and you'll be on that team for years training with these people just to have someone else, you're training for this person now. You're training for Paul to win the race. Like my job is to train for Paul to win the race. I paid my entry fees. I busted my ass training. I did all that stuff for Paul to win the race. So I feel like as an amateur racer, I could see if I was getting paid to do that.
Right.
But as an amateur racer who I'm paying to do it, man, everybody always wonders why teams unfold and they don't go according to plan. I think that's the big thing. It's like,
It's true.
if I had an opportunity to win the race,
Right.
I know I'm supposed to be pulling you out, but I see an opportunity for me to win. I'm going for it.
Right.
Right. So it's that Mike Tyson saying everybody has a plan until, right.
Yep.
But yeah. What do you think, Paul?
I'd like to hear about the race. I want to know what he was thinking beforehand. I want to know why if he thought he could win, because it's a bit. Carl Doan is not a small race. Like that's a heavy hitter race. When you win that race, you put in some time, you've done some work, and it wasn't like you won him by a tire. I watched the video. He I don't know, didn't see you coming up the hill, but it looked to me like you put your mark on that race. So tell us about it. Tell us.
I saw it from the bottom of the hill. There's a video. So there's the cool thing about racing nowadays. There's going to be 20 different angles, right? Give it a week. Give it a week on YouTube. There's going to be 20 different angles.
Yep.
So were you wearing the GoPro?
So yeah, so I had my GoPro. Shout out to my wife, because she's the reason why I even had it. Because she was she bought it for me like almost a year ago, and I've used it for everything but cycling. So she was like, "This is time for you to use your GoPro. You need to use it for the race." And I used it. So I had my GoPro footage.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You used the GoPro the first time and you won the race?
Yes.
Oh, you're screwed now, Clay. What are you going to do? You have to use it every time. Like it's
Every time now. I have
it's
to.
every time. All right.
And it technically worked.
Yes.
And it worked. Yeah. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. So you got your GoPro on.
Yeah. So you got my GoPro footage. Then you have Samir, who he plays second. So he's got his footage out there, which is a really good angle. Then you got Zach. Zach's footage is not a little bit farther back. So, and I'm, like you said, there's going to be some other angles that's going to come out there.
It's crazy. I'd say 50% of the field has a GoPro on now.
Yeah.
Thank Justin Williams and Legion for that.
Yeah.
Because they made GoPros and crits like, look, if there's any controversy in a crit, I promise you there's video footage of it. Just relax, it'll come up sooner or later.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so Paul, so kind of like thinking, so my thought process going into the race was, we knew we had a lot of guys in the field. So we knew we had I think we had like 12 or 13 Artemis line up. So we had plenty of coverage. The team did a whole recon and strategy like the Thursday before the race to kind of go over the plan and what we were going to do, or at least what we were going to attempt to do. I wasn't able to be there at that particular point at that Thursday. So when I talked to Zach, and Zach is orchestrating stuff, and he was like, "Man, look, just basically get yourself sheltered in. With like 3 to go, we're going to do X, Y, and Z." And then I was supposed to have Marcos was supposed to lead me out, and I said, "Okay, cool." So I learned from my last year doing Carl Dolan, because Carl Dolan was last year's Carl Dolan was only my second race ever, and I remember that race, and I remember all the things that I did wrong, being a complete newbie, not knowing anything. All I wanted to do was just stay up the front, which I did for about 90% of the race, and then I got, then I mishandled the sprint, and I took everything that I did last year, studied that footage, and my wife can tell you, I was looking at footage from that. I watched that video probably 30, 40 times. Then I watched the 1-2. I watched so much footage from last year's GoPros. I can't even tell you how much footage I watched. Like I just watched it from different people, from guys who did it right to people who did it way wrong to crashes. I watched everything. Then I went ahead and I was on my I went out and did the recon myself 2 days prior. I did 10 laps out there on my own just to recon it, just to kind of get a feel for where I wanted to launch and how I thought it was going to go. And then on race day, it was like, okay, just settle in. Don't push myself too hard. Don't take any efforts. Don't take any wind. And if you look at most of the footage or most of the cameras, like you didn't even see me because I was so tightly packed in. You couldn't even figure out where I was most of the race. And then when it was 3 to go, Sean yelled it out. It's like, we got 3 to go. We made our move as a team. And then I was looking for Marcos because he was supposed to lead me out. Come to find out, he caught a flat. So I was like, okay, we coming down to the backside for the last lap. And I'm like, all right, I got Samir next to me. I know he's a good wheel. So I saw 2 good wheels that was right in front of me that I knew. I was like, worst case scenario, I'm going to play off of them. And then here comes, I call him Superman. Here comes Paul Hines up on the inside. So Paul finds me. So we make eye contact. So then I get on his wheel. And then I'm just directing traffic from there. I'm yelling to him, up. So he turns it up right when I needed him to. Then he peeled off. And then I knew from the last 3 laps, it was the same couple guys that kept shooting off to the right side. And I was like, I know somebody's going to go early. So when Paul rolled off, I hopped on this guy's wheel. And as you see, you guys saw the footage, I'm just riding all the way up till we get to right when the hill starts to crest. Perfect spot where I wanted to launch at. And after that, I just hit it.
And that's it.
What watts did you hit? Do you know?
So my peak was 1270. And then I had, I think my 30 second power was like right around 800 watts.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. So
How
you
much-
know,
how
a lot
much-
of people, what
How much
what
did you
cat-
win? How much
what
did you win?
category?
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How much did you weigh, Clay, so everybody can look up what your what your what your watts to weight was? What did you weigh?
So I weighed in that morning. I weighed in at 184.
Okay, there you go. He's not a little boy. He's a man.
No,
He's a
no.
man.
Yeah. Again, people think that you need to have like a crazy sprint. You need to have crazy watts to win the race. You don't. A lot of times it's about timing. Timing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if I would have win, I'm gonna tell you now, if I would have win as late as early as you guys did, I wouldn't have been able to hold that long, right? I gotta be that last guy to jump to be able to hold on to a sprint like that. But for me, it's not going to happen ever again because I think racing crits, you got to have big cojones because, and I honestly, it's so funny because I really don't think I'm like that now. I used to think that I could do it, and I've raced crits and I've done stuff, and now the more I think about it, where it's like, damn, I think I would. I'm so nervous. I would be so nervous that I would endanger other people around me. So I don't necessarily not only try to keep myself safe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are rolling now. They're not the same crits that I raced back in the day. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Even the Cat 5s are way faster than what we were doing. Yeah, it's amazing. I think with all the training that people are able to do off season, people come into these races so strong now that it's unbelievable. Speaking of strong, you notice Paul's got his tank top on. He's got his arms out. I know he's been working out in CrossFit.
Listen. Sun's out, guns out. Sun's out, guns out.
That's right. That's right. That's the saying.
What are you weighing in at now, Paul?
187.
Okay.
187. Dr. Paul Lavelli. I would have never thought that I would hear that.
Yeah. It's I don't feel heavy. But I'm definitely not fitting into the cycling shirts I wore.
No, I got some stuff that you can use though. Yeah, see how that works?
I couldn't even zip for a shirt the other day. I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, that's how it works.
Clay, what got you into cycling? How did you get into what you knew? I knew you were a hockey guy. I didn't know you were a wrestling guy, but how did you get into cycling?
So I had ended up having 2 knee injuries probably about 2.5 years ago. Yeah, almost 3 years ago now. And I was still playing hockey really quite a bit. Got hurt, and then I had to rehab. So when I rehabbed, it was crazy because I watched. I was following Ed, old Special Ed, and for those who don't know, he's my old wrestling coach as well. So I was watching him on his fitness journey. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So Ed's the one that like I watched him because I watched him. I remember when he was
Fat Ed.
I remember when he was stocky Ed.
Stocky.
So he went from stocky to chubby.
To chubby to fat.
Yep.
But
then I watched him come.
I'm not shaming anybody. I'm not body shaming anybody because my man he's none of those anymore.
He's slim. She's slim now.
Yeah, he's slim.
He's slim. But his whole transformation and me watching him do it, and I was looking to rehab, and my physical therapist was like, well, one of the things you could do is you could get into cycling or something that's low impact on your joints. And I said, I contacted him, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm working with Velo, and I'm doing this and all that. And I was like, man, that looks pretty interesting. So my office, there's a church store that I passed leaving my office, and well, it was a church store at the time. And I went in there just to get fitted, just to get fitted for, just to kind of figure out, ask some questions. Went in there to get fitted and left out with my bike. So
Gotcha.
It's like, all right, well, I got my bike. And that's what really initially got me going, was watching his journey. And then I was looking for something else I could do that would be low impact on the knees, but still wanted to be competitive. I just like to compete. I whatever it is, I don't care if it's jumping jacks, dominoes, whatever I can compete at. I want to compete. Like, and that was what got me in the cycle was him. And then a lot of the stuff that he was doing, I was just, he got with Artemis, and I was like, okay. I watched him, his first ever 20+ mile an hour ride. Then I'm watching him get faster. I'm watching him do like 22, 23 mile an hour averages. I'm like, man, okay. So I'm watching everything, and then I was like, okay, well, Zach came to me about Artemis. And John Hartsfield came to me about possibly getting down with the team, and Ed was already on the team. So now I'm like, man, this is my shot. This is great. Everything's lining up how I wanted to, and the rest is history.
That was a smart move, getting Clay involved in your team, guys. Smart move for a couple reasons, because it brings some youth into that team, and two, obviously, you're dedicated enough to bring some results with you. So what's your next step, man? I know you want to win more, but what's your next step?
So I got to get some revenge on RSR. So Ride Sally Ride last year, I placed second, and I placed second because it was a little mistake on my end, thinking I could make up 2 spots from the last turn, and I got enough power to make up 1 spot, but making up 2 spots in that short sprint is a little challenging. So I kind of know where I messed up last year, where I could have took first in that one. So that's the next one on my calendar is RSR. But we got like 15 guys already signed up for that. So one of the things I'm looking to do, I know I talked to some of the guys already. Since we have so many people that's in the Cat 4-5, that's really, so we only have a couple. Like I could do it now, but my goal is just to get more experience throughout the rest of the season as a forward. But I really want to help some other guys on our team start getting some points, so they can have the possibility of catting up to Cat 3, so we can have a more evened out roster going into the next season for Cat 3s and Cat 4s. And really, man, just doing whatever I can do to help Artemis grow. Like I said, add some more youth to it. I think we have a really good movement going on right now. From last year to this year, a lot more involvement. Big shout out to everybody on our team that's just been doing incredible things, just to help with everything. So I want to do my best to give back to the team. Like I told them already in the chat, like whatever you guys need me to do, if you need me to jump into the Masters races, the 35 plus, the 45 plus to help, do some work for somebody else, that I have no problem with that. I don't, that's totally fine with me.
Well, yeah, like I said, that's kind of part of it. That's the kind of thing that, again, we don't see in the mountain bike side of things, right? It's pretty much us against the clock. There's really no other, I can't really help you in a mountain bike race. It is what it is, right? But it's a whole different, I don't know, I don't want to call mountain biking checkers and road racing chess, but it's a lot more involved in road racing. A lot more involved.
I like it. It's just like, to me, it's especially crit racing. I think it's like organized chaos. Like
100%.
I just love it. Like the get swarmed. It's like the more people I have around me, the calmer I get. Like
not me. No. The more people I have around me, and I can tell, like, Ed likes to joke around with me when he rides next to me. He purposely keeps getting closer and closer, and I'm like, let's not even play that game, right? Because it's crazy, because I honestly feel, and it's not just me being cocky, but I honestly feel like I can outhandle the bike better than 90% of the people out there on the road. So I'm not really afraid of my bike handling skills. I think what makes me so nervous is knowing how bad the other bike handling skills are, and knowing that they're trying to ride within inches of me, right? And I'm like, that's the scary part. Like, I can't get that through my head. Like, I know that people have motors now with no technical ability to match that motor. And that's the scary part, because you can't just shake them off your wheel anymore. And I honestly feel like in the last 5 years, that's so prevalent. Like, you used to be able to shake good example is 5 years ago, we used to do the Fellow City Fast Ride. And we would get back to the parking lot with 4 or 5 people. That's it. Everybody else would be gone. You get back to the fast ride now, and it's 20 people still with you. And you're like, what the hell happened? Part of it's because Jay Murphy doesn't want the ride to break up on an A ride, which I don't agree with Jay. But I think people have just gotten that much faster also.
Well, we still drop people off.
Oh, I mean, trust me, people still get dropped.
If
But-
we want to, is at the point where it's like if we want to drop, if it's certain people show up to the ride, if you want to drop everybody, you can drop it.
See, that's the way I look at a B ride should be. A B ride should be we'll hold your hand, we'll walk you through it. Don't worry about it. Everything will be okay. I think the A ride should be like, every man for himself. Sorry. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not strong enough to hold on, you're not strong enough to hold on. Right? I mean, that's the way I always look at A rides. And in that case, I could be the one that's getting dropped and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, I think
100%.
I wish more people would be okay with getting dropped because to me it still plays into the same concept of, you know, you don't want to be, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Same thing, if you're the strongest one in the room or you're the strongest one on the room, you might need to change the scenery because
I mean, there's people that come to rides to push the pace. You know what I mean? On an A group ride, I want to go out and I don't want people that don't. And another way of separating and keeping it safer is when you separate it, you have people that don't have the bike handling skills. They kind of peel off.
yeah.
But when you make it an A/B ride, I mean, we could talk about this. Like I said, this is a whole nother podcast. But when we could, you know, when you make it an A/B ride, you blur the line, and you get people on that should not technically be there, maybe strong enough to actually ride in that ride, but shouldn't be there technically. And that's how accidents happen, and that's how bad things happen. Wheels get overlapped. They don't do certain things. They don't have the right etiquette. That sometimes it takes a couple of years to learn how to properly, like, you know, position yourself in where you're not endangering others. What about you, Paul? What are you thinking?
About A rides, I think they should be as fast as the people can go. That's the whole point.
I agree.
I always say, I think you and I have had this conversation on a number of occasions. It usually comes up, you know, it comes up a lot. But I think Adam Driscoll says it best when he does the Tuesday night, you know, West Side Whirls. He's like, okay, we're going to need an A group and a B group. And he looks around and nobody volunteers for the B group. And he goes, okay, we'll just figure it out on Ridge Road, which is about, a three-quarter of a mile climb. And then you're going to have an A group and a B group.
That's right.
Those are still on the front of the A group, and the B group is still on the hill.
That's the best. That's the best saying, and that's the way I think it should go. You know, and again, I'm not in control of how they run things over there or whoever is. You know, I don't know who actually is, but apparently there's ride leaders and there's not ride leaders.
Yeah.
And you know, I would almost be again thinking that it's all about me to say that it should be this way and it's got to be that way. I'm just saying I like it better when it's an all in or nothing. And, you know, I like what you did, Paul. When someone complained about how fast we took the A ride one time and came back and said, I never got the memo that I didn't get the memo. The ride was supposed to be this fast. The next week, Paul had a memo, handwritten memo for that person. The ride's going to be fast is what the memo said. Hold on. And I loved it. I loved it. And, you know, like I said, even with those rides that Paul and the three guys went off the front almost every time, you know, I would hold on to that ride as long as I could hold on to it. And about halfway through, I'd get popped. And that's fine. I'm cool with that. Because the next week, I want to see how much further I can hold on.
Yeah.
Clay, can I ask you a question? I think lots of people say, you know, it's hard for me to get fast. I've got a job, I've got a family, I've got kids. I mean, you are not a man with a lot of free time. You're a busy man, right? So tell us a little bit about that and how you've worked your training. You're a new dad, relatively new, for those of us who have kids who are in their 20s. But you know, tell us about tell us about that journey that you've been on trying to train, because you're doing some serious training, yet you still have a lot of other responsibilities.
Right. So it definitely helps to have a supportive wife, which is, I mean, she does so much to help just in general, which is excellent. But yeah, still having two young kids, running the business, and I always tell people I did the three. To me, I did the three hardest things you can do in life: be an entrepreneur, have kids, and be married. That's the triplicate of hard. So it's just figuring out the dynamic, and a lot of it is just Paul. Really, is just like how bad do you really want to train? Like if it's like because it's like if you don't train, you're not going to be fast. You're going to get dropped. You're not going to win any. You're not even going to be close to winning any races. So if you know you got it, if you know there's no way around it, like I have to do this if I want to get these results, then it's just a matter of mind. As one of my mentors says, mind of the mattress. Like you got to you got to get up early, get your butt up early. Like if you used to sleeping in, get up an hour and a half early, right? Get an hour and a half with a trainer if you need to. I don't necessarily like my smart trainer, but sometimes that's my only option depending on the day. So if I gotta suck it up and stay in the house and train, I'll do it. And then when I get a chance to go outside and I can have an hour and a half of training, then I'll do that. And then every once in a while, I'm blessed to be able to be out for 3, 4, 5 hours. Do an 80-mile ride. But usually I don't get a lot of those. I'm normally that person that I do an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's it. So within that time frame, I got to get the best bang for the buck. And like you were saying on the A rides, because I don't have a whole lot of time to just do jump miles. I'm there to, like, if I know that's the day I need to be having an all out effort day, I'm there to have an all out effort day. I mean,
Just doing your workout.
Yeah, I'm just getting my
doing my
workout.
workout.
What it is. so I mean, so
Yeah, that's a lot to feed in, but you're 100% right. I mean, if you really want something bad enough, you'll find time.
yep, you will. It's really that simple. A lot of people try to get around it. Like, oh, maybe I can do this and do that. Yeah, you can try to not train and then show up to a to a race, and you're gonna be looking embarrassed. And then it's gonna be the excuses like, oh well, I just wasn't feeling it today. No, it's not that you weren't feeling it today. You just didn't put the work in and prepare properly. And I tell people all the time, I wish I could be on the bike 12 to 14 hours a week and get that type of training. I can only imagine how strong I would be if I was able to get that type of time in. And I feel like that will happen later on. I just can't do it right this minute. So I can do the best of what I can do now. Until kids get a little older, business is a little bit more stable. Then I have more free time. Then I can dedicate some more time. But right now I'm getting about 6 to 8 hours a weekend is really my range of time I'm able to get in on the bike.
I like what you said, Clay. I think you and I have talked about at the end of the race, there's a lot of stories by people why they didn't win, and your attitude. And I know you and I have said this to each other before. There's simply one reason I didn't win. It's because I didn't go fast enough. That's the only reason I didn't win, right? And when you come at it with that mentality, you go fix that. Like that's what you go fix. I just didn't go fast enough. All right, go fix that.
Yeah. And I think again, not to keep harping back on comparing crits to mountain biking, but because there's so much more in a crit race than there is a mountain bike as far as not necessarily technical, but a lot going on around you. It's easy to come up with excuses, right? Someone blocked you. Okay, well, someone, this person cut me off, this person did that, I didn't get a lead out, I didn't have that, I went behind the wrong person, blah, blah, blah. And people use those as excuses all the time. But at the end of the day, it's exactly what you just said, Paul. You didn't go fast enough. You didn't move fast enough, you didn't do this fast enough, no matter what, you didn't go fast enough.
Yeah.
Clay, was that your mentality in all your sports?
Yeah, my mentality, any sport I've ever done was always, I was always that person that sized up the best person, like the best competition, whether it be a team. If I was coming on a team and I wasn't the captain, I would always size up the captain. I was like, okay, this is the captain, this is the leader. All right, let me see how I can eventually get myself in that position, because I always like to be in leadership, and it was never a ego thing. Like I've always wanted to stay humble, but it was always a matter of, I felt like if I was in a position in leadership, I'm the type of person you normally count on me. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And one thing you don't have to question is you don't have to question my effort. Might not always work out how I plan, but you can best believe the effort is always going to be there. So I've always had that mindset of, there's nobody really better than me, and I'm nobody's better than me, and I'm not better than anybody else. The difference between the two is normally just the time and the effort that was already put in.
I
And
will outwork you. I will
that's
outwork
it. That's it. Right? I mean, if you outwork a person, eventually you will have your day. You'll have your day where you win. You'll have your, you know what I mean? It might not come right away. It might be years, but eventually you keep working, you will have your day.
For sure. That's what they say. They say hard work beats talent.
Yep.
It's so
It's funny.
it's
We
so
used to have that shirt. We had that shirt in our wrestling room. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Hard
true.
work beats talent.
I like how you brought the analogy of finding the big guy in the group and then trying to emulate what they do, and then finding the next big guy in the
Yep.
group. That's or girl.
Are we talking size or speed? Because I'm
It
a lot of
depends.
times I'm the big guy in the group.
You know what the interesting thing is, now I've taken this into another sport in the CrossFit world, and I did just like I got into biking. Clay's story makes me laugh because it was the same thing I did. I picked the biggest, baddest guy, and I was like, okay, follow him, right? When I was cycling, and beat him, and then pick the next big guy, right? And in CrossFit, I started working out with this one guy who goes to the gym, and he's a badass, man. Dude, he's not big, he's not huge, but man, Bart's his name, and he's he in my phone. I don't even know his last name. He's just known as Bart Badass in my phone. And I worked out with him for a few weeks, and like, that's the mentality. And it's so funny in the CrossFit world, you don't have an A ride or B ride. You get invited to the group ride. So like at noon, all these really badass CrossFit people go to the gym and they do this one really hard workout and they throw down at each other. But that's how they make each other better. And you need an invite. You don't get to go there just because you walk in or you show up. You need an invite. So it's interesting. Each sport has this sort of like, okay, this is the mechanism in which the upper echelon how they train and how their mentality. It's not just about talent. It's a lot about mentality. That's my point with Clay. I think Clay, I have to say, the first time I rode with you, I was impressed with your ability to hang on, but I was impressed that.
Oh no. Did he freeze? He's back on.
Screen just changed, but there, we're back. Can you hear me? But
Yep.
you just sucked it up, and you're like, okay. And I went in and I told Donald, you got to ride with this guy. Like, you have to ride with this guy. I just remember saying that to you.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I noticed that Clay was strong was, I think it was an Artemis ride that came through here.
Well, remember, we rode the first time I rode with Paul Hines brought me over.
Yeah.
And then it was like an oddly hot day for off season, and the Driscoll brothers were up here, and they were doing a pass, and you were like, "Hey, are you guys coming back past?" And we were like, "Sure." And then it was Paul Lavelli, you. Matter of fact, Paul Hines didn't even make it. He invited me up here. He didn't make it, and then I ended up riding with you guys. I think Dan Lucas was there.
That's right.
And then we hit. That was the first time I ever hit like WBNA.
Yeah, and we hit it hard.
And we hit it hard.
and I at the WBNA, I turned it the other way. Yeah. So we were. That I do remember that ride.
And you went back and talked to Paul Hines and was like, "Dude, why didn't you tell me that your boy was that strong?"
Yeah. I went. We went. think we almost hit. We almost got. I think someone did get a top 10 or maybe a KOM on that ride.
Yeah, you
But,
were close.
But yeah, that was a strong ride. I thought I rode with you before then, though.
That was the first time I remember. I mean, now, if we did, I might not have.
I thought I remember
Might have
riding with you, and I was like, damn. I remember though. Either way, I do remember thinking like, damn. All right, dude's got some power. I don't know who he is, but he's got some power. And you know, it's one of those things where I'm like, damn. I've seen so many people come up in this sport that I tend to live vicariously through people, and I celebrate victories with my friends, whether they're at a world-class level or at an entry level. It's all the same to me. A victory is a victory. An accomplishment of a goal is an accomplishment of a goal. It doesn't really matter to me what level you are. You know, and for you to win at Carl Dolan, man, I already know you were probably excited, but along that sideline, the people that have been watching you grow and watching you do what you do, there might have been people that were more excited about your victory than you were. And even at that level,
It was crazy. It was crazy. Like I'm telling you, the amount of like love that was shown.
oh yeah, and it's genuine.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
genuine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And it was from different teams. It was like
it
guys.
doesn't matter.
They were like, man, I mean this, and it was like I had people coming to me like, man, did you even work hard? Because I wasn't really sweating that much. I was like, man, you could have went for another 300-400 meters, and I was like, yeah, I probably could have held it longer, but it was just like I said, the genuine love, man, it was a little bit much because I wasn't expecting.
I don't think a lot of people are expecting that because, like I said, there's a lot of people that have been racing for a really long time, and they may not see that experience or ever again, and they still are involved in the sport. So when they see someone that's coming up achieve a goal like that, and you got to remember, there's going to be people that have been raced that will race for years and years and years and years and never win a race.
Right.
Right? Like that's a realistic thing. Like they may get on the podium and they get psyched about being on the podium, but they'll never there's a lot of people that have raced for 10, 15 years and never won a race.
Right.
Right? Maybe they moved up too fast. Maybe they did this, maybe they did that. So when someone that you know and you've been watching training, you know they've been putting that effort in, finally achieves that win, then you feel a certain way. I think that's just us being human.
Right.
We feel a certain way for that person, right? And like I said, for me, I'm mad that I left early because I had to get back to the shop, so I didn't see that race. But man, I would have been doing. I can't do backflips anymore, but I would have probably tried one. You know, it's like the same thing when I used to watch Paul race. You know, Paul tell you, I used to get more excited on the sideline. I'd be yelling and screaming. I'd leave his races and my voice would be shot, right? Like I see my friends and people that have accomplished it. And again, I don't care what level, because someone might be on here and saying, oh, he's only racing at a Cat 4 or he's only racing at this. It doesn't even matter what level you're racing at, right? The fact that you've accomplished the goal that you went out to do that I know is hard to accomplish, hats off for sure.
Hey man, I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it.
Clay, what did your kids say?
What'd you say?
What'd your kids? How did they react?
Oh man. Oh, my son was like, of course he took my medal. So he's like, as soon as I put it on, he's like, Daddy, can I have that? I was like, sure. You know, and he's like, then he always gets excited about when I get off the bike that he can start messing with the you know, the bars and everything. And he was like, oh man, he's like, how's it feel to be number one? And I was like, that feels great, you know. And you know, my daughter, I got a video footage of her. She's just, you know, she's waving around to everybody. She's excited. And I think that's one of the other things that really is another level to me that means a lot is having. I always felt like you should never, because I always hear a lot of times parents say, you know, I've given up on my dreams so that my child can have one. I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe more so in you might have had to adjust certain things, but I think as a parent, you should always be striving for your own example, you know, to show that example that, hey, I'm pushing you towards doing great things, but what are they looking at you do? What efforts are you putting in that they see? And I think that's a big deal for me to be able to have my family there, especially like I said, especially how my son reacts. He gives me a hard time. He said he's always like, you like matter of fact, the pressure was on Paul. He and my wife both told me they were like, you better be. She was like, with all this preparation and all the stuff you've been doing, you better get number one. And I was like, look, I promise you, I'm coming in number one. And then to deliver it, then I could go back and tell my son like, see, I told you I was gonna be number one today. So it was great.
That's a hard thing to say. I mean, I've gone to the line thinking I was going to be number one. We joked about this to Ed a lot. I'm not going to enter a race that I don't think I'm going to win. It's just like if they're expensive now. Like I can just go ride the course for free on another day, right? I mean, again, that's probably me just being selfish, but
I don't think it is. I never race a race I don't see a pathway of winning. Why would I?
Yeah, right. I just don't get it. When people say I race this for the experience, yeah, I get that, but I'm supposed to be racing in a field of my peers, right? I'm not trying to gain experience with people that are supposed to be my equals. I want to prove to them that they're not my equals, right? So I'm racing, and when I race, it's I'm trying to win. I'm not trying to just have an experience. I'm at that starting line. Now, midway through the race, it may turn into an experience,
Right.
but I promise you, at the starting line, until someone convinces me otherwise, I'm there to win.
Right.
And I think that's maybe the competitive drive in me, because I honestly think with all my cards line up, I think I can compete with people in my category.
Right.
I shouldn't have a problem competing with people in my category. So, yeah, it's good that you go into it like with that mentality, saying, I'm going to win today.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the only thing that surprised me, honestly, in the whole race was the sprint. So the sprint was totally nothing what I expected. I expected it to be me and at least maybe one or two other guys were going to be dueling it out for the sprint. And what caught me off guard was the gap that I opened up right off the bat. And it was the only thing I'm still upset with myself, and I promise I'm never doing it again, because it was one of those things where it could have went left, but I was so shocked at the gap that I had. I literally sat up out of my sprint and looked back and was like, oh wow. And then I got back in my sprint and finished the sprint when I should have never paused. I should have just kept the hammer down. But I was but you know how when you're racing, you normally can feel somebody close to you.
Right.
And I didn't feel any pressure. So I was like, wait a minute, and it almost had me tripping that like, did I miscount the laps? Is this not the I literally was thinking, I was like, is this not the last lap? Because I'm like, if I'm sprinting and this is the last lap, I'm gonna be really upset with myself.
I've miscounted laps before.
So I was like trying to trip, and so I paused for a second, looked back, and then I saw Cliff. Cliff was on the side. Cliff was like, go. I was like, oh. And then I got back back there. I finished out the sprint.
Cliff is one of the senior guys in Artemis. He's probably a lot of people call him Uncle Cliff.
Cliff, yeah.
Good guy. But yeah, man, I've miscalculated a sprint lap and the last lap in a cyclocross race that I missed the podium because of it. And just never heard the bell lap. And asked the guy came sprinting by me on the last lap when we were we got off onto the road, and I thought we had another lap to go, and this guy came past me at Mach 10. He was flying. And I was like, whoa, he's kind of aggressive. And I'm like thinking that we have like 3 more laps to go. And he goes past the finish line, and I go through the finish line, and they're like, you're done. And I'm like, could have easily had that guy. I end up one position off the podium. And like you said, I never heard the bell lap. I said, I told the official, I was like, I never heard the bell lap. He goes, yeah, you didn't hear
Right.
it.
And that's what I was like. That's my only thing I wish I wouldn't have done in that race was the like sitting up and just kind of like second guessing because I was I literally thought when I came from out when I basically got to the top and I hit it, I thought people were a lot closer, but I didn't. I just looked over just to make sure nobody was over so I could kick. And when I kicked, I was like, okay, it's just gonna be me and whoever else is gonna go. And then I'm like, all right, there's nobody really going, but nobody really did when I looked at most of the footage, nobody really had a out of the saddle sprint. Everybody was basically seated.
Well, Carl Dolan is a difficult sprint anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Dolan's sprint really starts at the bottom of the hill. When you have uphill, you have an uphill that kind of levels off to a false flat to a finish.
Mm-hmm.
That energy to get in position from that uphill, from that long sweeping corner that they have, you use so much energy in that uphill. If you're on the front pushing it, that's your sprint. You're already done. So people start getting peeled off of that.
Yep.
Then the second wave comes through and tries to sprint at the top. A lot of those people didn't stand up because they couldn't stand up.
Yeah, they were just like they were sitting there, and it was a lot of low cadence. And I was watching people every lap. I'm like, we were hitting the hill, and there was so many guys that were just grinding, getting up. I'm like, man, y'all are gonna be done in about 2 more laps. I'm like, and I was just sitting there spinning, had a high cadence getting through. And I mean, when I said my legs were pretty fresh. When I hit it, I was like, man,
You were ready to go.
I was ready to go at the top, and it was right where I wanted to go from.
Good high wattage, a good push. You could tell. So we're live on Facebook and YouTube. If you guys have any questions for Clay, please ask them now. We're going to be finishing up in a couple minutes. But yeah, if you have any questions for Clay or any of us, just please give us ask them now. We'll go ahead and answer those. But
I think I took care of the Facebook ones, but I don't see. I'm not on the YouTube one, so
yeah, it's only we didn't get a lot out of YouTube.
okay. All right.
One guy. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody everybody had a chance to chime in and ask Clay any questions that he had about training, about racing, about anything like that. Anything you guys want to ask Dr. Paul Labelli about life, about racing, about how he's his frame is holding that 187 pounds.
Sun's out, guns out.
That's a funny one. Hey, you got Randy Watts.
What's up, man? So that's my buddy. Yeah, man, we've been
Things could play the junior go. Oh, asking Paul when she come home.
When am I coming home? Ed wants to know.
yeah, wants to know.
I'll be home first week in June.
We gotta by the way, Paul has messed my entire, I'm gonna blame it on him. Paul's messed my entire riding season up.
Well, no, I helped you.
You helped
Clay,
me out.
Clay, we have this parting question.
Yeah, you helped me out for sure. But I'm like, man, Paul,
Clay, who
my whole
taught you?
training. First of all, I feel like I've been cheating on my training partner because I'm trying to find other people to push me the way that Paul used to push me naturally.
You didn't listen to him.
So I mean, I'm not trying to guilt trip you into coming home. I'm just saying things are different now. That's all.
It's like a separation, but you guys get back.
It is. I see light at the end of the tunnel, but and the cool thing is when he comes back, he's going to be closer to my weight. It's going to be a lot more fun. You know how many times you're going to have to be? I get to say, I told you.
Poke the bear. Go ahead. Keep poking.
That's it. That's it. Just see, I told you. That's all I'm saying. You know, welcome to my world.
Clay, what's the first bike you ever had and who taught you how to ride it?
First bike I ever had was a BMX Mongoose. Like very nice. Had the best, nicest one in the whole neighborhood. And the funny thing is, I had a very difficult relationship with my father. So he tried to teach me for a second, but we were just didn't have a good relationship at the time. And I literally got my bike, and I basically conned my grandparents into getting the bike for me, and never had trainer wheels. And I literally was at the top of the hill, and it was a bunch of big kids there riding around, and I just rode my bike up to the top of the hill, got on the bike, and then I just rolled down the hill, and then I just made a turn, did my own little lap, and basically taught myself how to ride. And that was literally how it went.
So what was the first bike?
Mongoose.
Mongoose.
Yes.
Pegs on it?
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. Did a lot of tricks back then. I did a little bit of mountain biking when I was probably 12. And I probably hadn't been on a bike since I was 14. And the funny thing is, I still have my other Mongoose. It's still in my shed.
Oh wow. We need to drag that out.
I'd be anxious to see what it looks like right now. I think we're sitting there for the last 20 years.
Yeah, you get on those things after a long time, and you're like, yeah, that's crazy.
Well, Clay, congratulations, man. Well done. I knew it was going to happen, but just so happy that it did. And I love to get that notification. I did have a huge smile on my face for a long time. I said, yeah.
I told you, that's like I said earlier, it's funny how we live vicariously through people accomplishing things that we thought that they could do all along when you finally get it done.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys, man. I'm telling you, I was so excited when you guys were like, hey, would you mind getting on the podcast? And I was like, oh man.
Yeah, man. This kind of podcast is if we get super famous people on, that's cool. We get our local legends on, that's cool too. You know what I mean? We get people up and doing things. We just want to talk about bikes. We're just a bunch of bike guys ourselves. And, we want to celebrate cycling with people like you, like Ed, like Dave, so many different people, right? That are locally. And share their stories with other people. Maybe it reaches out further. Maybe it doesn't.
Right.
Who knows? But it's not even about that. It's just about us hanging out and telling the stories.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, Clay. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Paul, I'll see you next week?
2 weeks. I'll be surfing next week.
Yeah. Like I said, there's
Got my Dakine.
there's no, Dakine makes bike stuff also. So, there's no surfing in the harbor. I was like, all that fishing you were doing, you could do it in the harbor.
Did you like that fish? Did you like that last one?
That fish was pretty damn nice.
Whew. He was a good fish. She was a good fish. Yeah. When you see a fish like that come out of the water and hit your top water fly, you're like, wow.
It's worth it, right?
Yeah. And then she jumped over a log to get. I said, I'm never going to land her. And she jumped over the log she was behind. I'm like, thank you for that. Appreciate it. See, that's when you need the GoPro. That's when you need the GoPro.
Well, Paul, you enjoy yourself, man. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time. Get a GoPro so we can watch you surf.
Oh, that's a great idea. I do have a GoPro. I'll do that.
Set that
All right,
GoPro.
guys.
All right, guys.
All right.
Good night, everybody.